Let's do this. Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful, for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Welcome, Bruce.
Hey David, how you doing today?
Good. I had a feeling that the Oilers could win one in Boston, even though that feeling was probably misguided, considering Boston had only lost once before in regulation time. I just, the Oilers, I thought, played a good game against Buffalo, despite losing in overtime, and they played an even better game. This is one of those, and we talked about this, Bruce, they're capable of coming up with this kind of tight checking, strong game against a good team. We've seen it 5-6 times this year, and we just saw it again. This was a very even game. Both teams had 10 grade A scoring chances. And it came down to, this is my theory of hockey right now, that every game comes down to two key bounces, two key brain farts, and two key excellent plays. And I think you could make a strong case that was the difference tonight. And we're going to go through some of these in our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. Bruce, what is your good thing?
Deuces are wild, eh? I got to go with Mike Smith as my good thing, and it's a good thing that he seems to have recovered his mojo after a dreadful run of almost 2 months duration where he was having trouble making a save. But he sure made a bunch of saves today, 21 in the third period alone, as the Oilers mostly defended a 2-goal lead. And a lot of that was Boston shooting from everywhere. Like, it wasn't like every one of them was a golden chance from in close by any means. There was a lot of traffic and a lot of staunch defending going on. But the fact remains that Boston was peppering Smith with shots and a few pretty tricky ones too.
6 grade A chances in the third period, Bruce.
That's a fair number. It's not 21, but it's not zero either. You know, I mean, they were getting some good looks, and even a couple of their B chances. Like when you have David Pastrnak firing a slap shot just inside the far post, I don't care what the angle is, that's a tough save for the netminder. And he fought those pucks off, and he's fighting the puck off is what he does when he's on his game. I think, like, he's never smooth. And he had one near disaster when a Pastrnak shot from the sideboard somehow went through his blocker. That didn't go in. But you know what? The other team's goalie let in a shot from the same spot. And when was the last time we could say that the Oilers got a big goal on a grade B chance and that the other team didn't get one? That the Oilers actually won because they had a goalie who made fewer mistakes than the other goalie.
Bruce, I was thinking this whole game, the Oilers are just a team in desperate need of a bounce. Like, When was and the same thought occurred to me. And it's probably because we're Oiler fans that we think this way. Maybe they get more bounces than we think and more calls than we think. And that's probably the truth. But they really did need a lucky goal. And that, if that had happened against the Oilers, you and I right now would be talking about what an absolute, this was an absolute, it was a double backbreaker. Is it a triple? It's a double backbreaker because it's in the dying seconds of a period on a crappy shot the goalie should have. Like, that is an absolute team-killing play by Boston's goalie. And nice to see the other team's goalie do it now and then.
Well, both goalies today were number 41, and it was a 4-1 game. So how's that for a confluence of things? But honestly, the Oilers had third time road game in a row. They took a 2-1 lead into the third period. And in neither of the last two games could they hold the lead, let alone build on it. Well, tonight what they did was they actually were able to score a goal and to actually extend that lead a little bit and give themselves a little bit of breathing room. And in the end, they Boston never even cut it back down again. But I think I'll defer to your good thing to talk about that 3-1 goal.
So yeah, my good thing is two little things. The first one was a subtle thing on Gaetan Haas's shot. I loved how he smashed the ice with his stick just before he shot that puck.
That was great.
That was a fantastic little move. And I bet you if he hadn't done that, he doesn't score.
Right out of the playbook of Linus Ullmark. Remember him doing that in his first NHL game on the shootout against Tampa Bay? You remember when he did the spinorama and they were all mad at him? But he came in, but what he did to fool the goalie was he whacked a stick on the ice and then shot. And it's just like this sort of quarter-second delay between the sound and the actual puck leaving the guy's stick. And that's exactly what Haas did there. I commented on Twitter and I said it was an remarkable shot by Haas.
I hadn't remembered Omar doing it, but that was a great play by Haas. And my second one is Cassian's pass on McDavid's goal. And you know what? The Oilers came out flat-footed. Nurse had to give away. Larson had to give away. They were ready to give away that game at that point. And but McDavid came out, Bruce, in the third. Like he has been playing fantastic actually for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think he's been playing fantastic as a two-way hockey player the last couple of weeks. And he came out flying and not backing off and not willing to let the other team dictate to the Oilers. He had made up his mind. I'm going for it. And there's no better player on earth to make, when he does make up his mind to do that, go for it than McDavid. So he was obviously key in that whole sequence. But the Cassian pass, so this is the kind of pass where if it was picked off, people would be just, Twitter would have exploded in rage and condemnation of Zach Cassian, because it's a behind the backhand pass in the offensive zone to a kind of, I guess it would maybe cross seam it, but it was kind of to a trailing player. So that's the kind of pass everyone hates. They just hate it. We all hate it. When it goes wrong, but when it goes right, hey, you score a goal. And that's why they do it, right? That's why players try to. It's so hard to score a goal. You have to, you're looking for any edge, and sometimes it's that pass that creates the chance and the goal. So Zach Cassian perfectly executed that pass, and so that's the other good little play that I take as my good thing.
Yeah, he's got some surprisingly finesse skills, Cassian, especially on the backhand side of his stick. He's very good off the backhand, and especially so for a right shot. It seems to me that not as many of the right shots are skilled on the backhand, but he almost prefers to go that way, and he makes good plays off of that side of his stick. And that was a nice soft pass. And anytime you find McDavid with space, that's a good pass. And McDavid was, after being stoned by Halak a couple times earlier in the game, made no mistake on that one. And I'm with you in that. I think McDavid's been playing well, but I thought today was his best game in a while. I thought he was really had the offensive game going, and he was solid all over the ice. So,
I'm really liking the Oilers' top two lines right now, Bruce. I mean, this has been kind of remarkable for 2, 3, maybe 3 games in a row, at least 2 games in a row where the Oilers' top two lines have really functioned very well, almost all game long. So, Yamamoto's made this huge difference, I think, because a time and again we see during the game where he actually makes a little pass that would have got the other guy out there, whoever it was going to be. And they've tried lots of players, Chason, Nygaard, all these guys, but Yamamoto's been able to connect with Draisaitl and Nugent-Hopkins to make that unit finally work. And McDavid's capable of lifting up other players, but Cassian's all year long, he's been stride for stride with McDavid. So good for Zach Cassian this year. And James Neal, there's people in Calgary who will insist that it was a garbage for garbage trade. No way. I don't buy that for a second. James Neal, he has some bad games. He's got some bad moments at even strength, but he can score on the power play, and he's hangs in there on a top line with McDavid. So
he came out today with 5 hits in the first period, James Neal.
Oh, yeah.
And the most telling of them was when he crunched David Pastrnak into the boards. And this was a few minutes after Pastrnak had crunched Oscar Kleppbaum on basically the opening minute of the game. And, sometimes the players who get hit take a number, and sometimes their teammates take a number. And I have an idea that Neal knew who he was hitting there, and he put a little extra into it, and I didn't mind that at all. Sweet. I love it when guys go to bat for their teammates and exact a little, not revenge, but just, they hit you, you hit them, and you take it to them, and you don't no quarter, just go after him. And Neal mashed Pastrnak pretty good there.
Boston seems to have about 6 players who are all the same They all look exactly the same, seem to look and play the exact same superlative way. They're all about 5'11", 5'10", and about
Squeaks, yeah,
190 pounds, 200 pounds, strong on their skates, extremely calm and clever with the puck, strong on the puck. So there's Pasternak, Bergeron, Marchand, Krejci, Krug, McAvoy. It's like watching and I accuse them of cloning players, except if they could clone players, they would have cloned 6'9", 250-pound players. But if they're all these
yeah,
same, and they're really dangerous hockey players, every single one of them. They just puck
yeah.
protect so well. They're so clever.
Mhm.
So yeah, that Pasternak, wow, what a hockey player he is. Bruce, what's your bad thing?
Yeah, I'm going to tag, and I like this guy's game today. Josh Archibald, man, you got to hit the empty net, man. 40 feet out, 2 minutes to go in a 3-1 game. You put that in, you're home and cooled out, right? It's 4-1, the game's over. And somehow he hits the side of the net from straight on, not quite straight on shot, but sort of inside edge of the top of the face-off circle. I mean, NHL players, you got to be able to hit the net from there. Oilers have been so reluctant to score empty net goals. It seems like, and sometimes with a clean opportunity, somehow they blow it. And that one, the puck came down the other way, of course. And if not for a great defensive play by Oscar Klefbom, Boston scores to make it 3-2 with about a minute and a half to go. And now it's really game on till the whistle. So a little knock on Josh Archibald. Like I say, I didn't mind most of his game. You just got to score on that chance. I mean, it's an empty
Yes,
net. There's no goalie in there. You're allowed to shoot at the center of the net.
he was stick checked on the shot. So the play that he
Took
had
too
actually,
long, man.
he took too long. He had an early touch of the puck, and the in retrospect, the right play would have been shooting it in from outside the blue line, but he wanted to carry it in for a sure shot. But by the time he took the second touch of the puck, the guy stick checks him. So I agree. Like he should have shot it earlier. Thank goodness Draisaitl finally got a cheapie. I always loved those when Gretzky used to get them because he got
Hmm.
a lot of them. I think you've pointed out how many he got. How many did he get in his career?
Well, he had at least 50 because I remember when he got number 50, and they kind of made a big
So
deal of it.
yeah, so this is probably Draisaitl's first. So it's nice to see
No, he
them
got
get
one
it.
against Rangers earlier this year
Okay.
on a Saturday afternoon in a 4-1 win. Just saying. But he had none all of last year, and he lost the Rocket Richard Trophy by 1 goal to Alex Ovechkin, who had 4 empty netters. So maybe he learned from that bitter experience to power in and score, and when he gets a chance in the empty net, which he did. That was a really nice pass to himself off the wall and finished the job.
So so Bruce, my bad thing is I was going to mention a couple plays mistakes by Oilers in this game, but I on a certain level I think that's unfair because this was largely a mistake-free game by the Oilers. It was not a mistake-free game, but a brain cramp-free game by the Oilers. There was just before McDavid's goal, there was a shift where uh, the players on Draisaitl's line all made a they all probably at least one or two of them, and maybe Draisaitl the most made a bad line change. And there was another play later where Yamamoto gave up the puck, but Drew Remenda pointed out both of those on the broadcast. So I'm just repeating what Drew said. Everybody knows these things already as mistakes. I'm going to go with the bad bounce because this is what had me thinking about bounces. The puck goes off Chris Russell, his stick into the top corner of the
Top
net.
shelf.
3 minutes into the game, and like initially we're all blaming Mike Smith, right? We're all thinking, "Come
He
on,
let
man,
that one
make
in from way out
make
there.
us
Yeah.
make us save, Mike." Then we watch then because Remenda didn't pick up on this. I don't think, but it was clearly hit Russell's stick, and it's just like, oh, like this is the first shot, first grade A. Not even it's an kind of a grade B shot. Nice, a hard shooting guy, Pasternak, but he was going to get that, and then all of a sudden it's in the net because of the deflection. So that's bounces can be bad things, and they often make the difference in a game. And it was well on their way to making a difference in this game until bad pass by Boston player and Gaetan Haas puts it in the net on a really crafty goal. So This NHL is so tight. It is so
Yeah.
very tight. The games come down to almost nothing. And this is a point that Scotty Bowman makes in the book Scotty, which I've referred to numerous times now. But it's exactly true. It's not like it was even in the 80s where you're going to overpower other teams. And so I think some people wonder why. Well, why do you guys pick on Draisaitl and McDavid and it's because in this NHL, you can't afford to be that guy anymore, I don't think, who's the
Mhm.
one-way player because every little mistake, it's the games are so tight. There's no making up for it. You're just not going to have that opportunity to get an easy goal or two. And if you give up an easy goal or two, you're going to cost your team and you're going to cost your team the playoffs. So it is a bit of a different world than existed in the past. It seems to me. So bounces matter. And tonight, there wasn't a bounce on the Darnell Nurse shot, but there was something went wrong. Like
Went right
almost
through.
Smith almost let in that one from Pasternak, right? That
Mhm.
could have been that moment for us,
Yep.
for the
Right
Oilers.
after Oilers had tied at 1-1, that would have been a killer goal to give up.
Ah,
Somehow he fought it out and it seemed to go right through him and it looked like it landed on the goal line and that didn't go over somehow. So
did it land on the
whatever.
top of his foot?
Yeah, it was a weird bounce and there was no real clean. I don't think they ever did show the overhead or it didn't show anything, but it was a near thing for sure. Oilers got the puck luck on that one and then the Nurse shot that somehow went right through Halak. That's a bad one to be given up. So, but you think when the team says we our goal today is stay out of the penalty box because of Boston's power play, and here they take a penalty 3 minutes in, and Boston scores 5 seconds into their first power play, and you got your backup slumping goalie in net against a team that's lost one regulation game at home all year. You're thinking at that point, this is not going to be pretty, and yet they hung around at 1-0, and then when Boston never did score again, and the Oilers popped in eventually four straight. So,
It's funny. I was saying in my last game grades, Gaetan Haas has got to start to do something, right? Like,
mhm,
or you could see him out of the lineup.
mhm.
So good for him. That line actually played very well tonight. They were smart defensively, and they got a goal. So that's a very good game for a fourth line unit. And they were often out there against pretty tough competition too. I thought I noticed. Maybe I was mistaken, but it looked like I was thinking, how does Boston always get this matchup with Bergeron against Haas? And maybe it's just because it happened a couple times, so you really notice it when it happens. And so
Last line change.
yeah, last line change. Hey, your number, Bruce.
Well, I'm tempted to. I'm tempted by these face-off stats of Shane and Draisaitl, which were both excellent. But I think I'm going to default back to 65, which is the number of points scored by the NHL's co-scoring leaders, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. Draisaitl has his nose back in front because he's got one more goal than McDavid, 24 and 41 versus 23 and 42. But those guys are just pushing and driving uh, the the offense for the Oilers. Not really so much today. I mean, Draisaitl's assist was pretty cheap, and his goal was an empty netter, of course. But McDavid's goal was absolutely massive. And when those guys score, the Oilers have a chance to win, and when they don't score, they really don't. And they've been driving the play all year long and tied for first place in the league. It's pretty impressive. Especially impressive when you got them playing on two separate lines from each other.
Yeah, where you know you can say that the Oilers haven't had the wingers, but
Mhm.
those guys also make their wingers. McDavid certainly does. Maybe Draisaitl has needed a little more help with wingers all along than some of us thought, including me. What a
Well,
difference though Yamamoto's inclusion in the lineup has made. It's just seemed like the jolt of skill, high end skill
Dylan Speed.
that they needed in that spot. And there's also Tyler Benson down there. It makes you think, geez, maybe we'll see Tyler Benson. And there's some I've heard. Well, why didn't they bring him up at the start of the year? Or, but maybe this is credit to Ken Holland here. Maybe he's brought up a player when he's overripe, when he's really ready to go. And here he is. He's stepping right in, looking like he belongs here fully belongs here. The other day I looked, Bruce, at players when they break in, like
Yeah, I saw that.
in terms of my performance review, like where they rank, and it was kind of fascinating. If you don't step in and you're not one of the Oilers' top 10 players, your chances of actually sticking with the Oilers or even sticking in the NHL are quite small. You got to, when you come up and you're in mid-season at least, and you're coming in that lineup, you got to be good to go, ready to go. And the players who aren't, they're just they play on the third line of the bottom pairing. They often don't. They sure don't stick with the Oilers. I think the only exception to that rule was there was Zach Cassian, who was established, and Ethan Bear, but he took a whole year in the minors. So good for
Hmm.
Kyler Yamamoto.
Yeah, well, he basically took a whole year in the minors because he was sent down
Yeah,
last November,
yeah,
and he got basically a solid stint with time on the shelf. Of course, he had a wrist injury in there that set him back. So I thought after the last 2 years of him starting in the NHL and getting sent out, that this year the wise, prudent move was to start him in the AHL and bring him up when he was ready. And you could say, well, maybe he should have brought him up a month ago, but I don't think there's any way he should have been here at the start of the season. And they kind of worked their way through a variety of guys, and they finally got a belly full of a couple guys like Marcus Granlund and said, well, we got other guys in the minors that maybe can do a better job in this. And the funny thing is that you would expect your youngest, least experienced guys to be your least polished. And Yamamoto, he's really got a 200-foot game. He's made strong defensive plays and he's been a buzzsaw in the offensive zone. Today, a couple of warts, a couple of soft backhand
in the third.
non-clearing
Yeah,
shots, both in the third period, that led to Boston pressure. And it
yeah,
looked like maybe the pressure got like he just kind of panicked and dumped it when he had a little bit of time, especially on one of those. But um, that's uh, uh, part of the learning curve. I mean, what strikes me is that his natural tendency to play strong defense and to make good strong plays on defending the other team and the passing lanes and stuff. So he's been a jolt. Now that's the first time that you could say that Leon has A, been on his own line, and B, has two wingers who both have skill and who both can skate. First time.
yeah. So the Oilers have gotten, they found these top line wingers who are getting the
Hmm.
job done for a short stretch of games here. But Cassian's come from the bottom lines, Yamamoto's come from the minors, and Neil came in a trade. So good for somebody. Maybe Ken Holland. I don't know if that was the master plan, but of course, the Neil for Lucic trade I see was a huge, huge, massive win for the Oilers. I saw it from day one, and it's even more so now. But Cassian, kind of showed last year he was capable of it, and he's taken the ball and run with it, and now Yamamoto's doing the same. So that's what a team needs, though, Bruce, doesn't it? It needs, and we haven't had in recent
Right.
years, is people stepping up and doing better than expected. So Ethan, a defenseman who's in the AHL for 3 years or 2.5 years, whatever Bear was down there for 2 years,
2 years.
stepping up and becoming a top four NHL team. Other teams get that all the time, and the Oilers haven't
Yep.
had that, in years, it seems to me. So this year has, to me, a different feel for it, and this leads to my number. I'll just quickly get to my number. It's last year at this time, after 44 games, the Oilers had 45 points. This year they've got 49. So they're real 500 this year. Um, and real 500 is a team that's going to be battling for the playoffs. And I think this team's going to make the playoffs, and they're on that path right now. So
Yeah, well, they're a real 500 in terms of they've won half their games, actually. Uh,
22, yeah,
yeah, and with the five Bettman points among their 22 losses, their points percentage is 557, and the median for the league is 560. So right there, they're right smack dab in the middle. Well, in a 31 team league, smack dab in the middle is 16th place. So that's basically where you got to be in contention for the playoffs. And that's where they are through now starting, getting into the second half of the season. And this is the first time that they got results from three straight games since 2 months ago, October 30th to November 4th, when they got 2 wins and a loser point. And they've done the same now in their last 3 games. And in between, they were never able to string really anything together.
I like the coach's lineup change. Caleb Jones. They needed another puck mover. The puck moving situation had gotten kind of desperate with Caleb Jones. I mean, I don't have anything against Lagesson. I think he's a useful player too. But you just can't have Lagesson and Russell and Nurse and Larson all in the lineup at the same time. There's just not enough puck moving back there. You need one guy on every pairing who can do it. So Darnell Nurse could now defer to Ethan Bear and Larson to Clefbaum and Russell to Jones. And suddenly things were quite a bit smoother.
Last game, they had 2 puck movers and they were on the same pair together. And when those guys were on the bench, they had to move Russell up to right D. And the thing about Jones and the advantage he had, and the reason he's probably back in the lineup over Lagesson, is that he's capable of playing that right side. And it just gave him a more balanced trio. Like last game, they had to kind of waste Adam Larson a little bit on the third pairing, and he spent a lot of time on the bench. Today he was out there, and I thought he played a pretty strong game, Adam Larson.
Yeah. I'd like to see the day, Bruce, where they have 4 puck movers and 2 defensive. I think you need defensive defensemen. I think you need at least one, definitely, and I think you probably need 2 good ones. But is that your?
It's the cat.
Cat. But 4, then you could have on your top pairing with McDavid or with Draisaitl's line. You could have 2 puck movers. You could put maybe Clefbaum and Bear together, and then have Jones in the other pairing, and Bouchard will probably be the guy, or Pearson. So we await that day when that happens. And Darnell Nurse, I don't include him. I think it's a little unfair to not include Darnell Nurse as a puck mover, because he's not a great passer of the puck, but he moves that puck. He skates that puck. He transports the puck. According to our numbers, Bruce,
I think it's nice to have one guy who can do that for sure. And
he's contributed to a higher rate of grade A major contributions to grade A scoring chances at even strength than any other Oilers defenseman, Darnell Nurse. So I regularly don't discount him as a puck mover, but he adds to the offensive play in all kinds of ways with his puck handling. So
this is the 3rd year in a row that Darnell's been the Oilers' #1 scorer on the blue line at even strength.
Yeah.
And I mean, Clefbaum's a little bit ahead of him because he's got 15 points or whatever on the power play. But at even strength, Darnell scores more than anyone. And, it may not be because he makes 140-foot stretch passes, but he gets involved in the play, and sometimes good things happen. So he deserves, I think, credit as an offensive defenseman, even as he's not really what you'd call your classical puck mover. I heard an interesting thing on the radio the other day, and what was particularly interesting, Elliot Friedman was talking to Bob Stauffer, and he said he was told by a player on condition of anonymity that the player, they were talking about puck-moving defensemen, and this player said to Elliot, he said, I was on a team that had 4 good puck-moving defensemen, and I got moved to a team that had basically 1 good puck-moving defenseman. You cannot believe what a difference that makes, is what he quoted the player as saying. And I'm immediately going, who's he talking about? Who's he talking about? And I settled on, I wonder if that's Alex Chason that he's mentioning, who came out of Washington, with John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov, and, some of these higher-end puck movers coming to Edmonton, which at the time that he got here basically had Clefbaum. So anyway, just a wild guess, but the quote itself, no matter which player he was talking about how much easier the game is to play on a team where they have several defensemen who can get the puck going north, and it only makes sense, and it's been kind of a running commentary in the hockey community, analytics and otherwise, for some time now.
That's why Ethan Bear's made such a huge impact on this team.
100%,
this is
100%.
Him and Koskinen and a few other things. These are the big reasons to me. This is like two wins isn't 4 points isn't that huge a difference between this year and last year, but it is too. It's the difference between being in playoff contention and not being. And just like it's the games are close and hard to win, it's hard to move up in the standings as well. We see like it's you just tend to stay where you are. So
You want to talk about 100-foot stretch passes? Look at how Cassian got the puck
Bear
on that
backhand.
play where he set up McDavid. But how did Cassian get it? He got it from Bear, who was like basically at the hash marks in his own end, and got it up to the far blue line under control for the Oilers. And it turned from a defensive situation to an offensive one with one flick of the wrist from Ethan Bear.
Yeah, in that game. He made a number of really strong stretch
That
passes.
beauty
And
one to McDavid in the first period that almost
yeah,
like Connor in three. And just, tape to tape. Man, you'd like to see that.
all right, Bruce, let's leave it there. Thanks for talking today.
All right, thanks for another afternoon win for the Oilers. Man, they're invincible in afternoon games now, David. Who knew?
Yeah.
Anyway,
And
thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.